Welcome back to On Texas Football's Tuesday night Longhorn Livestream presented by Andy Ludicky. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined by CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. How are we doing tonight, guys?
We're a little sluggish. I stayed up for all 18 innings last night in the World Series game. I mean, look, I love sports, so I'm going to watch it, but I'm going to feel the pain and the suffering of all 18 innings in 6.5 hours, Jeff. That's for sure.
Jeez.
At what point, like, what inning do you get to? Because when you don't have a dog in the fight, right? Because you're a Rangers fan. At what point do you get to when you're like, dude, I'm pot committed. Like, I just have to finish this out.
It was the bottom of the 11th where I was like, well, they're not going to score here. Like, I got to see this one through. You know, I've made it this far, and all of a sudden I was like, now it's the 15th. now it's 2 a.m. Now it's like, what have I done?
Yeah, I can't say I did the same. I was in bed by 10:30. Cannot relate there. But glad you got to stay up and watch that. We got a lot to talk about today. If y'all have any questions, make sure to get them in the chat. Once again, super chats. We'll jump to the top of our list. Starting it off, major topic of discussion this week is Arch Manning concussion protocol. We got a nice little picture on Twitter today of Arch getting pulled over by APD. So that's the top of the news cycle right now. Hopefully it was just a minor infraction. But predicted that he will likely not start this week. And CJ, you said they're trying to do everything they can to get him back to starting status. But I just don't think this is really an injury that you want to rush to get him back, especially with what you have coming up in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, definitely. If there was a time, you get back to playing at home, and then you get the week off, and then obviously you have 3 big games to conclude your season. I know that everything rides on a week-by-week basis, but definitely don't want to rush back Arch Manning this week if he's not fully, there, of course. And, of course, for his long-term, concussions are a scary deal. So Matthew Caldwell has certainly shown some moments this year. Obviously, the touchdown last weekend, he had a great throw against Florida as well. Had a 50-yard scamper against Houston State. So, he's got something there. Now, is that enough to beat a top 10 team? That's up for debate. But, yeah, Texas doing everything they can to get Arch Manning back on the field, of course, but got a clear protocol, and that's something that you will not see any corners cut. Ensure to, Manning brain is very important.
The good thing about it is it's out of the coaching staff's hands. Assuming I have no reason to believe Texas isn't following concussion protocol to a T, but if it's followed to absolutely how it's supposed to be, it's out of Sark's hands, which is I think that's why Sark was a little frustrated during the press conference yesterday. Like, even in, and I understand, like, you got follow-ups, like, what does the protocol entail? And Sark's like, well, he's in the protocol. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, so you could tell he's frustrated because he can't. It's not like he can determine when Arch comes back. It's all up to the doctors at this point. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've seen a little bit from Matthew Caldwell, but really not much to go off of. You've seen what he did at Troy, but I don't know if you can actually translate what he did to Troy exactly to what he'll be able to do against a top 10 SEC opponent. But Steve Sarkisian seems to be pretty confident in his abilities as QB2. He talked about it in the press conference yesterday.
Well, I think the good thing for Matt, he's a very even-keeled guy. I thought he had a great practice today. I think, the players have a lot of confidence in him. I think it's his maturity, his approach. He's very engaged even when he doesn't play. If you ever watched our sidelines in game, 18 is probably the most engaged player on that sidelines. He's always picking guys up, offense, defense, special teams. And so he's got a really good relationship with the guys. And so I don't think it's like, well, who's this guy? He's in a lot of faces a lot of the times. And so it felt very comfortable, felt very normal today. I thought the bigger thing for today was that KJ Lacey got reps with the twos. And I thought that was really good for him. He's a very talented player who's been growing and getting better. So it was fun for us to see him get more reps today.
Do you guys have any specific, I don't want to say concerns, but things that you would have questions about going into this game when it comes to how Matthew Caldwell is a different quarterback fitting into this offense than Arch Manning is?
What do you think, Jeff?
I'm really concerned about the Texas run game, namely that they don't have one right now. You look at their numbers in SEC play, if you look just in conference games, everybody's played at least 4 conference games. So South Carolina's been 6 conference games already. Texas is dead last in conference games in rushing yards per game. They're averaging a little under 77 yards per game. Now, sack yards do factor into that, but if you also look at it in terms of running plays that have gained 10 or more yards, 9 in their conference games as dead last in the SEC. So I don't know. At this point, I've kind of given up hope that they can sustain a run game. I just don't know what you're going to do to take pressure off of Matthew Caldwell, to take that burden off of him. Obviously, a quick passing game, and there's some things we can throw out there and think about. And obviously, I think that's going to be part of Stark's gameplay because it's going to be different. It's going to look different than it does with Arch. But, man, I really worry about times when the offense bogs down and Vanderbilt's ability to control the line of scrimmage and control the ball. This is going to be a really low possession, low play kind of game.
Would you blame that on offensive line play, or would you point more towards talent / I would say depth, as far as just the running backs have not been able to stay exceptionally healthy this year?
Yes. All of it.
All of the above.
All of it factors in. And plus the fact that they especially like the Mississippi State game was a better example than the Kentucky game. You got to a point where, all right, you might as well, based on where the score is, it's not even worth it to try to run the ball. And I think, honestly, Amanda, like it goes back to, CJ, we talked about this just kind of spitballing when we did our grade show after the game. I get frustrated when like Trey Wisner will rip off a 4-yard run and then Sark immediately calls a pass play. Like you're not letting him get into his rhythm. And I'm thinking like a 4-yard gain is a good play for this offense. I think it just boils down to Sark doesn't trust the offensive line. I think he trusts his backs. I just don't think he trusts this offensive line to be that consistent in the way they need to get the running game into a rhythm without something going wrong or somebody screwing something up.
Yeah, it's almost like what you want to do with your offensive line in the run game doesn't fit what you have personnel-wise, and you can't have it both ways, right? And of course, CJ Baxter's a different running back than Trey Wisner, and their strengths don't necessarily align, but it allows for a nice combination and complementary aspect that you just don't know what you're good at, right? I thought, look, CJ Baxter only saw about 20 snaps against Mississippi State. He had a couple bright moments, right? Had a run for 6, had a run for 10. The only rush from a running back for 10 yards was CJ Baxter. And then in overtime, look, you get Trey Wisner going downhill. You get 7 quick yards just running straight downhill. That sets up a 1st and goal from the 5. You back up to the 10 after a false start, and that's when the Matthew Caldwell touchdown throw comes from. But it just doesn't align with the strengths of your running backs, with the strength of the offensive line and what Sark wants to do. But for me with Matthew Caldwell, the big thing is, hey, I don't know right now on a Tuesday night what Cole Hutson's availability will be. I think he's going to do everything he can to get back onto the field this weekend, and that has to be the case for Texas. Look, he's your main communicator up front. I think Connor Robertson has kind of come into his own as of late, in terms of playing more comfortably. But having a backup center, a backup left guard, a backup quarterback, communication up front is something that Texas must be at its best with, playing against a team that's top 20 in sacks, tackles for loss, rush defense. Getting Cole Hudson back is going to be key. And if it's not, Matthew Caldwell better be up to speed with all of the calls, and adjustments of that protection.
Did we ever get clarification on what that injury was, or has Sark updated on any type of timeline for him?
No real timeline. It was a knee tweak is what I had heard. He walked into Starkville in Mississippi State Stadium on Saturday with a brace over his pant leg on his knee. And so that's where you're looking. And, of course, moving laterally is very important for an interior guard right now. Texas is going to need everything they can out of Cole Hudson if he's back, and they're not going to rush him back.
Yeah, and you don't want to rush back a knee tweak. I know that from experience. So as far as how the players are, the wide receivers are comfortable with Matthew Caldwell. They also talked about that a little bit in the press conference yesterday.
Caldwell had unbelievable, 2 plays in there when his opportunity came, and I think he's a great player. I've worked a lot with him in routes on air and stuff. He throws a nice ball, and I think he's a great quarterback. I think it builds a lot of confidence, but I think we all had a lot of confidence in him before that, seeing what he can do, what he did in the summer, what he did in fall camp, and what he's continued to do during the season. I think he's a great quarterback, and I think when his opportunity came, he made the most of it. I want to say like he's a great leader. A lot of people follow him. He works his tail off. I mean, you saw it in the summer. We run a lot in the summer, and he was running. Now he's fat. He's a fast guy. He's a great guy. Hang out with him quite a bit. He's a fun guy to be around. He's a great person. He's always got a smile on his face. He's very funny. Always high energy. He's a great person to be around. And like I said, I'm around him quite a bit. Obviously, like in the facility, but outside the facility. So he's just a great person. He's great. I think he can extend the plays very well. He's fast. I see him as like a Bryce Young kind of guy. Yeah, just pure dominance. He's pretty vocal as a. I think he's one of the most vocal guys in that freshman class. So it's great to see him. I think you have to be when you're a quarterback, and he's a great quarterback.
That was a good little cut up right there, Matthew. I hadn't seen all those questions consecutively. That had me laughing. Parker just got all the questions about the quarterbacks there.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, the way Parker responds is how you would probably expect him to respond about just his teammate in general. But one thing I have seen about this injury with Arch Manning is probably coming from the more troll aspect of people who probably don't watch much Texas football of, oh, now Vanderbilt is going to be nervous because Arch isn't playing. Oh, the game's lost. Just basically saying that Texas will be better without Arch Manning. What would your response be to somebody like that who and it's all over the place. You don't see it much when you surround yourself with a certain type of fan, but it's pretty rampant outside of the fan base.
I don't think anybody with their right mind is, outside of the trolls is sitting there saying Texas is better off without Arch Manning. Look, he's been fantastic over the last, I guess it's been pretty hit or miss, right? But he was fantastic against Mississippi State. He was really good in the second half against Oklahoma and Florida. So, look, he's had some moments, and he's growing more and more. I think he's becoming more comfortable playing under pressure, and it's tough when you're a backup quarterback coming into an offensive line that has really no consistent protection at all. And so for Texas, you got to have everybody else kind of expand their game and elevate their game into a way that kind of masks some of the deficiencies of a backup quarterback. And that's not a knock on Matthew Caldwell. It's just the fact of the matter. You're a backup guy for a reason. And Arch Manning, again, for his flaws, has been growing and growing each week. I don't put any stock into that at all.
Yeah.
This is right up there with the people in 2020 who tried to tell me or swore to me would, bash me for not sharing the same opinion, that Texas would be a better football team with Casey Thompson at quarterback than Sam Ehlinger. There were really people trying to convince me that, and they failed miserably because I'm a Sam Ehlinger stan, and I will be till the day I die. But yeah, people are always going to have that opinion. And look, if you're just watching the highlight shows or whatever, our Arch hadn't, set the world on fire. It hadn't been, I don't think, what any of us thought it would be. But to CJ's point, you look at, we just talked about Texas cannot run the football. They cannot run the football. And the offensive line, you've got your head coach, who's also your play caller, does not trust the offensive line. So basically, the identity of your offense, if there is one, it's, hey, snap the ball to Arch and just hope he can extend the play long enough for somebody to get open and we can make something happen. That's your identity. So what you have produced on offense has largely been because of Arch and his ability to extend plays and his athleticism. Look at how much pressure he's been under, and go look at where Texas stands in terms of sacks allowed. It's not as horrible as you would think. If it wasn't for Arch's athleticism, this offense, I don't even want to think about what the production would be.
Yeah. Completely agree there. All right, we got a lot more to talk about. Y'all make sure to get your questions in. Super chats jump to the top of our list. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over at myperfectfranchise.net. Are you looking to diversify or new ways to make money? Andy Ludicky at myperfectfranchise.net can help you do just that by finding you businesses that will fit your time allotment and financial goals. Call him or email him to learn more. He's got a really cool process that identifies the perfect fit for you. Email him now at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Once again, guys, make sure to get in your questions. The one that I had that coming from this Mississippi State game, and it's something that we've talked about previously, especially after the Florida game, of just the defensive performance. They were obviously fantastic in a lot of aspects of the game, but 38 points to Mississippi State it's not really the expectation when you have a defense of this caliber. And we've said previously, you don't think the defense is going to have that kind of performance 2 weeks straight. What do you think? Where were the gaps last week for this defense? And just how did that happen?
I think you have to give Mississippi State a lot of credit for their pace, right? Their up tempo, it bit Texas, and they targeted where Texas was weak, right? You don't have Michael Taft manning the middle of your field, and guess where a lot of those big plays went? It was quick slants, quick posts, kind of those bang eight routes over the middle of the field. We saw some crossers, which have kind of been a thorn in the side of Pete Kwiatkowski's defense since 2021. And then you could point to, look, man, coverage just wasn't a great matchup for Texas. And they've been trying to implement more and more as the weeks have progressed. But look, Brennan Thompson, 10-2, Anthony Evans, 10-3. Like, they've got guys that can beat you off the line of scrimmage, and that's exactly what happened. Brennan Thompson gets past Manny Muhammad on a straight go route, he stacks him, able to get on top of him and get a touchdown off of a good throw from Chapin. And that's just a bad matchup. If you don't play technically sound on the outside, you're going to get beat against teams with speed. Now, I don't think Vanderbilt has that. In fact, I know they don't. And they like to go 12 personnel, sometimes 13 to get bigger tight ends on the field for that run game, the quarterback run game. And, of course, Eli Stowers is one of the best tight ends in the country. He leads Vanderbilt just about everything. Targets, receptions, yards, total stud. But the middle of the field has to be better. And when you don't have that main communicator, it's up to your linebackers to start relaying a lot. And I don't think that linebacking unit did a great job on Saturday.
No, they struggled, and I'm almost convinced, and I know, Pete Kwiatkowski's been doing this a lot longer than I have. He's forgotten more football than I know, and he's getting paid to call a game, and I'm sitting here talking on our live stream. But I'm almost at the point where I'm like, maybe you should just have Jelani McDonald just shadow Eli Stowers and just go wherever he goes. Because honestly, CJ, I'm not worried about Vanderbilt's perimeter talent to the point where I don't think the Texas DBs can't hang with Vanderbilt's guys. I feel much better about that matchup. I know what I just said about the run game, and I haven't really fully wrapped my head around Matthew Caldwell starting this game. But my initial take on this game is I was a lot more concerned about the Mississippi State game than I am with this game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just I think defensively Vanderbilt's a much better matchup for Texas than Mississippi State was. I think, going back and watching the game, I really think tempo was an issue for Texas because teams will tempo you. Nobody will tempo you the way Mississippi State will, especially once they get like a first down and really get in a rhythm. And I thought there was a couple times where, Texas just got caught. Mississippi State didn't substitute, and Texas just got caught with a tired defensive line on the field. Like, that's just the nature of the beast when you go against that offense. And they're going to put up yards. They're going to put up points. They've done it pretty much against everybody they played this year. But I just think that, the matchup for Texas against Vanderbilt is I just like it a lot better because I think you can devote more bodies inside the box. And the thing is, can you trust your guys to play man coverage and to come up and be physical at the line of scrimmage? Because I think Texas can do that against Vanderbilt. I haven't tried to be too much of a critic of playing off coverage, but I was about done seeing it against Mississippi State on Saturday. Like, just at some point you got to try to mix something up. And to PK's credit, he did blitzing more, but I think you got to trust your DBs a little bit more. Yeah,
the thing that I like is kind of what you said. They match up well with Vanderbilt in the sense of the 12, 13 personnel that Texas will see. Look, Texas has as much front seven speed as anybody that you'll see in the country, right? You should be able to play manned up with these tight ends. very consistently with what you want to do defensively without having to sacrifice much, right? Getting Brad Spence and Colin Simmons on the field here should help. Anthony Hill, we've seen some Trey Moore at both spots. I think this is a big game for Ty Anthony Smith as well. So you should be able to match up here. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Vanderbilt's going to roll out more 12 personnel than maybe anybody Texas has played this year. Texas has seen defensively so much personnel dating back to spring football, to fall camp, to 7-on-7 in the summer, because that's what Sarkisian has been trying to implement basically every month of the offseason for what we've now seen and known to be the Texas offense this year. They've got plenty of looks on how to align, on what their gap responsibilities will be, and how things will ultimately look in given situations, and what 12 or 13 personnel will look like, because they've quite frankly gone against it every single day for the last 8 months. So I think, again, I this is just my educated opinion, I guess, but I think Texas is going to be okay against Vanderbilt, more so than they would be against Mississippi State, or an offense that goes as quickly or as vertically as we've seen the Bulldogs did a week ago.
This has got a chance to be like, we could remember this as the Anthony Hill game. Like, I think Anthony Hill's going to be the guy that, I don't want to say spy, because I think that term gets a little overused, but I think he's going to be the guy that's on Diego Pavia all day. And I think that we could be looking back and say this was it's sad to think about. Like, we'll see what happens in the postseason. But in terms of the regular season, like, we're basically looking at the last 4 games of Anthony Hill's career as a Longhorn.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're down to. So I'm expecting Zero to have some pretty big games here down the stretch.
This was actually, we recorded Moving Goalposts yesterday with Billy, and this was one of his narratives he likes to fall back on, is that he constantly questions the Texas defense, which is confusing to me, because I'm like, you have a full-on target there with the offense that you could just lean on as what you want to talk crap about your rival about. And my main response to him was, this defense, I don't think will play inconsistent 2 weeks in a row. Or poorly 2 weeks in a row. And like you said, much better matchup with Vanderbilt than with Mississippi State.
And I think too, hopefully, and I think it will be the case with as much experience as you've got, I think you'll be better against Arkansas and A&M for having played Mississippi State. Because at least at that point, you'll see spread, you'll see tempo, you'll see a team that likes to chunk the ball down the field. You'll be able to correct some things. And honestly, I mean, look, we saw Arkansas go score for score with A&M. Even though I said, like, going into that game, like going to Fayetteville and playing that game, it was going to be tough. And I credit A&M probably more than I should for going in and winning that game. But you're going to face another really good offense before you face A&M at the end of the year. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but hopefully, the bottom line is hopefully that Mississippi State game, it'll pay off.
Yeah.
I will say, CJ, you had, speaking of A&M, your tweet from the beginning of the year where you said that you thought the OU game would be a harder matchup for Texas than A&M. Has that changed? Changed that view? Do you think A&M is going to be a harder matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see A&M's quarterback having hand surgery 3 weeks before that game. So,
Mateer's trying to say it wasn't his hand. He's just to this day saying his thumb's fine. But
I mean, it's a different quarterback than what we've seen the first 5 weeks. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
But I will say about Texas A&M, they have the best wide receiver combination in the entire country. And Jeff, to your point, going against Anthony Evans and going against Brennan Thompson, 2 guys with elite speed, elite change of direction with the ball in their hands. Look, that is as close as you will find in the SEC to that of a Casey Concepcion or a Mario Craver. So, to your point, that's how you will defend the 2, right? That's how you'll go about putting up matchups and defending in zone and slot and whatever. Those 2, if you turn on the tape of what they were able to do against Texas, is going to be teach tape for Texas moving forward whenever they have to play Texas A&M last week of the season.
Like, I'm kind of looking in the chat a little bit. Even if Michael Taft doesn't play, I'm still not all that concerned. Like, Diego Pavia is a great player, and I was all on the Vanderbilt bandwagon early in the year, and I think that's a really good football team. But like, I just think that what's around Diego Pavia, I feel like Texas just matches up athlete for athlete really well with Vanderbilt. The thing is, My bigger concern, rather than matchups or slowing down Pavia, is can this defense stay disciplined enough to where if you get them in like a 3rd and 4, can you not jump in the neutral zone and then give them a free first down? It's stuff like that. Like that's kind of where I am with the defense this week.
They've been better the last 2 weeks, so there's a bright spot.
Thought that was one place of improvement. Salty Q had a question. With the defense being on the field a lot recently, why doesn't Sark call any defensive timeouts when they're obviously tired?
That's a really good question, Salty. And like we talked about it during the watch with us, like Coach Shipley said a couple of times when Mississippi State was on drives, like, hey, Sark probably needs to call a timeout right here. I think, especially later in the game, I think the value in having your timeouts toward the end of regulation outweighed getting the defense rest at that point. So if the game flow is different, then yeah, Sark probably. But again, like Vanderbilt, they won't tempo you near as much or to the extent that Mississippi State did. It's going to be a different kind of offense Texas sees this week.
All right, we got a lot more to get to, and we'll get to some more of your questions. Make sure to get those in. Super chats will jump to the top of our list. But first, Jeff, can you tell us about our friends over at Duck Camp?
I sure can. Amanda Duck Camp makes gear for folks who live for being out there, whether that's in a duck blind at sunrise or on the 40 acres for a Saturday kickoff. Born right here in Austin, Duck Camp builds best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel that works just as well for a full day in the field as it does for a long day of tailgating. From those sun protection shirts that keep you cool during those early season scorchers to their iconic game series hats that feel like instant classics, Duck Camp gear is ready for football season, hunting season, and every season in between. Get out there, stay out there, and hook 'em. Shop Duck Camp at duckcamp.com.
So, CJ, you posted an article earlier today that I thought was interesting of just one of your little rabbit holes you decided to dive into of just all the touchdown drives and just breaking them down. As far as those go, how do you see just how this offense has found success translate with if you have Caldwell as your starting quarterback now?
That's the thing is I don't know if it will translate, because what Texas has done really well when they put points on the board this year is they've gone quick and they've played from behind, right? They've had to air it out. They've kind of ditched the running game, and they've just said, hey, we've got to find big chunk yards in a short amount of time to put points on the board. And a lot of credit to Arch Manning in that aspect because a lot of those big plays have been from him rolling out, extending plays, and finding guys down the field after escaping pressure. And I don't know right now. It's just a complete unknown with Matthew Caldwell. Given the speed of this SEC defense that he will face, I don't know if that's something that he'll be able to do. I do think he has talent. I think he's obviously shown that at times this year. It's just an unknown right now. So Rod and I are filming a video just to kind of go over the crisis mode that we call it tomorrow. And I'm excited to go through it because Rod has great numbers. I think what I've dug up today as well is pretty interesting. The one thing I will kind of divulge into, Texas scored 11 touchdowns this year, right, against Power 4 teams. It's not many. They scored 5 against Mississippi State. Only 2 of them have come on drives that have lasted more than 3 minutes. And only 2 drives have had 3 or more running plays that have ended up in touchdowns. So you tell me, right, a lot of those rushing or successful plays aren't because of running the football. It's because Sark is sitting back there saying, hey, we got to pick up chunk yardage, and we can do that in 11 personnel while going quick. And that's basically the formula that we saw over the last 3 years when Texas started to really put up some points and score and put up some big-time offensive numbers. And for whatever reason, whether it be the strength of his quarterback, what he thought to be the offensive line strength, he went away from it. We saw more under center. We saw more 12 personnel this year. It hasn't been as fast. We've seen a lot of huddling, and it hasn't worked.
2 things I'm thinking about. One, I think Caldwell might play better on schedule than Arch. So from a play calling standpoint, I think Sark, as weird as it sounds, Sark might actually be in more of a rhythm from a play calling and sequencing standpoint if Caldwell plays better on schedule. We just don't know. We don't know how he's going to react. I mean, it's unbelievable to do what he did to come off the bench cold in overtime and throw a touchdown pass. But now you get to prep the whole week. You're going to be the guy at this point. Looks like he's going to be the guy. And the advantage Sark has is like Vanderbilt doesn't really have any film on Matthew Caldwell and what your offense is going to look like with him. So this is all advantage Texas from that standpoint. The other thing too, CJ, we talked a little bit about this yesterday during the live stream after the press conference. I think if you're Sark, I think you got to take the ball first. I think you got to come out with your best script of the year. You got to go down and get points early. I think you got to try to put Vanderbilt on their heels and be the aggressor. Like, I know I'm typically a guy, I like to defer and maybe get the 2-for-1 before the half, get the ball to start the second half. But I just think that in a limited possession game, the earlier you can try to get an advantage, the better off you're going to be.
That was another thing I found. And I tweeted out and people were like, why are you so negative about this? Like, well, it's not negativity. It's literally just the fact of the matter. Texas hasn't scored a touchdown when playing with the lead against a Power 4 team this year. I find that to be very remarkable considering they're 3-1 in conference play right now. That's crazy, is it not? I mean, they haven't played in a sense to build a lead at any point this year. And yet they're somehow, some way in a position to improve to 4-1 this week. That's pretty remarkable.
Yep. Got a question from Jesse. Thank you so much for the super chat. Update on Trey Owens. Lots of rumors out there.
Yeah, so we heard from Sark on Monday. Right now, quarterback one, the way that they are operating in practice is going to be Matthew Caldwell. KJ Lacey has been taking over quarterback 2 snaps, which means Trey Owens is your quarterback 3. And that's just how things have been so far this year, right? We talk about which quarterbacks have traveled to road games. It's been those 3. It's been Manning, Caldwell, and Lacey. We've seen Lacey jump Owens in the sense that Sark believes that there is more playmaking ability. And he mentioned that on Monday as well, just quite frankly saying, when he is on the field, the ball moves. And look, he didn't mention a whole lot about Trey Owens, but what we do know now is Sarkisian and the way that they are starting to recruit the quarterback position, you have to be able to be mobile, right? You have to be able to move and use your legs in a positive way. Texas obviously was handcuffed for the last 3 years with the quarterback that it wasn't necessarily his strength, right? And I think with the way that the sport's evolving, you have to have a quarterback that can beat defenses with their legs. And that's just not a big strength of Trey Owens' right now. Now, we'll see what that means by the end of the year. But ultimately, and unfortunately, I think the writing's on the wall there.
KJ Lacey beat him out. Plain and simple. Like, I don't think we need to elaborate more than that, right? Like, it's the way it is. And I mean, I think you saw Sark talk about it in a roundabout way on Monday when he was talking about the nature of the portal and kind of where rosters are at today. If you think you're going to recruit high-end quarterbacks and keep them all on campus for the entirety of their eligibility, it didn't work like that before you had the portal and NIL. It's really not going to work that way now.
Yeah.
All right, we got a super chat from All Right Cubed. All right. We beat Vandy. Caldwell plays well. Running game is solid, and we can tame Pavia. We're 7-2, ranked number 12 going into Georgia. We go from there. That's the type of optimism you need, I guess. That would be a winning formula.
I don't even want to think about Athens at this point. Like, I just want to get to Saturday, get through Saturday, reassess, and then worry about Georgia from there. That's just where I am. It's week to week, man. And it's I've said this before, but I'll say it again. This Texas team reminds me a lot of the 2007 team that was really, really talented, but was really, really sloppy and undisciplined and played to their competition all year. Man, Mac Brown hated that team. Like he like, and I'm not joking, like, but pre-2010, like in 08 and 09, he just talked about how much he hated that 2017. The flip side is, and this is kind of where I want to see the growth from this team down the stretch. 2008 Texas, in my opinion, I thought they were the best team in the country in 08. So you've got a young roster, you've got some good pieces. We've seen some things develop. I want to see how it is, but like with that team, I don't know what you're going to get week to week. I can't project that far out to the Georgia game, what that might look like.
Yeah, I've got no clue. It's such a roll of the dice. It's such a blind shot at the dartboard and just praying that it even sticks, right? So what is this team? And look, without your starting quarterback, you're going to find out a lot about this team. Fortunately, what we do know is that this team won't quit. That's more than what you could say about a few other Texas teams that we've seen over the last 15, 20 years.
Definitely. All right, we got a question from Paxton. What does a concussion feel like? We were talking about this before the show of all the concussions we've gotten in our various sports career. I feel like every concussion is different just based on intensity. I've had friends who've had to go to the hospital and haven't been able to take tests for the rest of the year. I feel like it's mainly just foggy. You're not all there in the head. Not supposed to look at screens. That's about all I remember.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Vladdy just had a home run, 2-1. 2-1 Blue Jays. But no, I've only had one concussion, and it was before I'd ever had any type of fun drink, right, in my life. But apparently that's what it was like for me. Is I was the happiest, the bubbliest person ever. I happened in the
opposite of what he is now.
Yeah, apparently so. I had it on the opening kickoff of a game in high school, and just smacked the head, came up, played the rest of the game. But I made sure that I knew something wasn't right, and I was just avoiding everybody at any time I was on the field. It was just pretty funny if you watch back the tape. But no, I was told I was the happiest person ever. I was telling everybody I loved them, and guess what I don't do whenever I'm unconcussed? Exactly that. So
if you want CJ to be a little more positive, maybe just whap him upside the head real.
That might be the key.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I got mine from diving headfirst into a soccer goalpost. Do not recommend. I just remember feeling rather disoriented, and I mean, it's not an injury you want to mess with, because if you play too soon after the fact, if you do strenuous activity after the fact, you can make it much, much worse than the initial injury.
Mm-hmm. I just remember lights got all blurry.
Yeah.
It was. I was telling people, I was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm in a dream right now." Yeah. There it is.
It's the trippy one. Declaring, oh, your mom's in the chat. She probably remembers better than you do how you were.
Yeah, I was telling everybody I loved them.
She's like, can you get concussions more often?
Probably.
All right, we got a lot more to talk about. Make sure to get your questions in. Super chats jump to the top of our list once again. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Now, I know you guys said you can't even fathom looking forward to the next, what's beyond Vanderbilt, but ESPN Analytics did, and Texas is favored to win 3 of these next 4 games, including two of the top 10 matchups, A&M and Vanderbilt this weekend. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm too distracted by, quite frankly, CJ, I'm just going to say it, by Sandman hitting on your mom in the chat. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, watch yourself, Sandman.
No, Amanda, it gives me I get tired head. Like I've got brain fog thinking, like seriously thinking about this team beyond Saturday. I'm serious. Like I can't, I don't. Okay, we got that. It is great, and we can talk about it. But what does it mean? I don't know.
Games like you've had, like Mississippi State and Kentucky, I feel like they're just mentally taxing in themselves of just evaluating what exactly went wrong, because it feels like, it changes week to week. Kentucky, you had a great defensive performance. Nothing happened on offense. Mississippi State, you had not that great of a defensive performance, and then offense got on fire late. So maybe that's why they're favored. They're so inconsistent.
I love Sark's quote on Monday. Like, we all have our opinions, and I got mine about press conferences, but Sark's talking about Vanderbilt. He said, look, it's going to be a 4-quarter game. That doesn't mean we have to wait until the 4th quarter to start. So he's frustrated. It's just one of those things. Like, the great thing about this team is that I feel like they're going to be in every game. The bad thing about this team is I feel like they're going to do things that put them in a position negatively to be in every game in the 4th quarter.
Which is why the Oklahoma game was so surprising, right? Because it's the one game that they've, I know they started off slow, but it's the one most complete game that you can point to and say, hey, they put it together, right? And, you see the bits and the pieces that make folks like me, and I'm sure some of y'all believe that this team could go off and run the table, but then you see games like the first 3 quarters Mississippi State and basically the entirety of Kentucky. You're like, well, they could also lose the next 4 games and end up in the Cheez-It Bowl or whatever. But that's what's interesting, because none of it really matters until Saturday comes, and then it's one play, one drive, one series, 1 quarter at a time. And if that's going to be the case, then hey, the talent on this team alone leads me to think that they're going to be able to compete with just about anybody in the country, because we've already seen that this year.
I don't think anybody could have predicted after just watching that Florida game that OU would have given you less anxiety than, or probably the least anxiety of any game this year.
Yeah.
I mean, even halftime trailing, it's a pretty comfortable feeling. Like, it's just still a very winnable game. You get all that momentum going into halftime with the interception, just a really, really winnable game, and you just haven't really seen that otherwise.
Yeah. It's been very hit or miss this year, but again, that's what's interesting about this one game is, hey, let's just very briefly talk about it. Texas could win this football game, right? They're favored by about 1.5, 2 points. They're at home for the first time in 6 weeks. They come away with this win with the backup quarterback. They're 7-2. They're 4-1 in conference play. They go on a bye. They get Michael Taft back. They get an extra week of recuperation for Cole Hudson, right? Arch Manning stopped looking at a screen for a week and comes back clear-headed, right? Then you're starting to look at, wait a minute. I know it hasn't been pretty, but they've found a way to check every box along the way since Florida. And that hasn't been easy, right? That hasn't been something that's just been a walk in the park. And all of a sudden you're sitting there saying 7-2 right now looks a lot different than where we were, 1 weekend SEC play when you were 2-2, and you're sitting there saying, 3-2? I don't know what this team's identity is. Obviously they've found ways, but at the end of the day, if you just find ways to win, that's ultimately all that matters. And that's credit to this team over the last 2 weeks. That's what they've been able to do.
Like I said, I feel more comfortable about picking Texas to win this game, even without Michael Taft and Arch Manning, than I did about picking Texas to beat Mississippi State. I'm not dogging Vanderbilt. I love that program. I love what Clark Lee's done. They're actually, you watch them. If you just like old school, kind of hard nosed, disciplined, fundamental football, Vanderbilt's really fun to watch. But like, who's Vanderbilt beat? Like, what's their best win? Missouri at home with Bo Pabula out for most of that game. Like, they beat LSU.
I saw a stat today. They haven't beat a SEC quarterback that was not injured except for Nussmeier.
Yeah.
Or beat a team without an SEC quarterback that was injured.
And how good is LSU?
Loss.
Like, LSU's not great.
No.
That Virginia Tech, that South Carolina win looks a lot different now than it did then. Look at their one. I mean, their one. You go to Columbia and win a football game, you don't apologize for winning SEC road games, period. But like the last time you played a ranked team on the road, you went to Tuscaloosa and got skunked.
Sellers got injured in that South Carolina game.
Exactly. So like, what are we talking about here with Vanderbilt? It's not like Vanderbilt is an unbeatable team. Yeah, they're ranked in the top 10. Give them their due, but it's a home game for Texas. I feel just like the ability of this team to exhale coming off of these 4 straight games away from home, just getting back at home, playing a home game. I feel like that in and of itself is going to be enough to lift them. Like, I feel infinitely more confident about this game than I did about Mississippi State. I know I keep saying it, but I can't repeat that enough. Like, I really, really like Texas this weekend.
What about you, CJ? Do you really like Texas this weekend?
I wouldn't say really, but I do like them. And I do think they have the athlete advantage. I think, of course, with the way and the style of Vanderbilt likes to play offense, it fits into the strength of a Texas defense. I worry a lot about the offensive line. I worry a lot about your quarterback's ability to protect the football, not just throwing, but over the last 2 years, Matthew Caldwell has 12 fumbles. Vanderbilt has a great pass rush. They got 2 guys right now that are right around 4.5 sacks each. They're top 20 in sacks. They're top 20 in tackles for loss in the country. So we talk about what can Matthew Caldwell do to lead this offense. The number one thing for me is what can he do to protect this defense? And that is not turning the football over.
Yeah, that's one thing I didn't think about because, I mean, people can say what they want about Arch, but he's done a really, really good job not turning over the football. I mean, only one interception in the past 3 games. Pretty good. Doesn't put your defense in precarious positions.
And that one interception hit a wide receiver right in the hands. Tough catch, but hit him right in the hands.
Yeah.
Like if you like old school throwback SEC games where it's defense and field position and, you know, first to 16, 17 points probably wins the game. If you like that kind of football, man, Saturday's your game. If you don't like it, you maybe want to watch something else at 11 o'clock.
I'm going to be wanting to watch anything else.
Because this is look, I like Texas to win, but I'm not touching anything with overs and unders. I'm not touching anything with covers with this team. I want no part of it. I feel like Texas will win, but it's gonna be pretty ugly.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I put it at one point during that Mississippi State game. We put it on a quad view with the other games going on and took the sound off the Texas game because we just couldn't do it anymore. And eventually, we looked down at the Texas game and we were like, "Oh, we should probably watch that again." But
I'm really happy that during the watch with us that I at least provided some entertainment because like when I do the watch with us, I'm not doing a bit like I'm reacting in the moment to what I see and like Sark's inability to call 2 consecutive run plays. Like I was throwing stuff around the office and punching the desk. Like it was fun. It was a hell of a roller coaster ride, but it was fun.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I posted a video of me shrieking after Ryan Niblett returned that. I don't think I could do a watch because the sound would just.
Oh, you said shrieking.
Shrieking. Yeah. Shrieking. Yeah. Like it's I posted that video because I have a camera in my living room for when I'm out of town. And we got on video the reaction when Ryan Niblett ran back the touchdown. And it sounded like a squealing hog or something. It was both me and Peyton. It was not just me screaming, but it was quite the reaction. People said, "Do not listen to this video if you have headphones in." Sorry.
Sam, man, you mentioned I threw my pin. I found a the little plug, the little brick plug that goes on your iPhone. I found one of those like across the office. I'm like, how'd that get over there? Oh, I must have chunked that against the wall during the game, just grabbing stuff and throwing it. So, yeah, I think the CJ there was one of those drives. I think it was maybe early in the fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter. They were backed up and they got it to 3rd and 2. Yeah, there was when they got it to 3rd and 2 and they called the RPO and Arch threw it. That was I'd had my fill at that point.
Yeah. Hard not to.
But it was great. The end was great. It was worth it. It was worth it to see how it all played out in the end.
All right, we'll get to some more of your questions. Make sure to get those in. Get in any questions you may have for us. Once again, Super Chats will jump to the top of our list. But first, we're going to hear from our friend Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Here's some good news. Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders, serving the Austin and Round Rock area and all of Texas, is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local to the Austin, Round Rock area and all of Texas, give him a call at 512-218-8571. Once again, guys, get in any questions you may have. We have one from Ryan Nelson for Jeff. What does it look like when the O-line breaks down without Arch's legs?
Don't put that evil on me, Ryan Nelson. Don't you put that evil on me. It ain't going to be pretty. That's why I think it's up to Sark to gauge, does Matthew Caldwell, how does he handle when the offense is structured and functional and getting the ball out quick? That to me is the name of the game. I think it's going to be RPO heavy. I think it's going to be screen heavy. I think it's going to be you probably see some old school traditional like zone read stuff because it's going to be a little bit different offense that we see. Like you're not going to have, like, you can't bank on the ability of your quarterback scrambling, making something happen anyway. I know I talked about that's the identity of the offense. That's more of a knock on the offense. Like you don't have an identity. If it wasn't for Arch, I don't know where you'd be at this point, but you can't that's what we keep talking about. Like you can't bottle like the ability of your quarterback to freestyle. And it's kind of like they say, hope is not a plan. Like freestyling and panic mode is not a plan on offense. It's not structure. But I do like the fact that, Sark basically goes into this game with a clean slate. Like Vanderbilt doesn't know what your offense at the start of a game looks like with Matthew Caldwell at quarterback. So I kind of like where Sark is playing from.
I know a lot of folks are sitting in the chat saying, "Hey, man, Caldwell can run, he can scoot, he can evade, he can scramble." Yes, but how much of that do you want to see? Right, he'll have to do it at times, right, without question. But you're one hit away from playing a top 10 opponent with a freshman quarterback that's never taken a snap before.
Minimally.
That is a dangerous line to toe.
Yeah. Do you think Arch sitting on the sidelines will help him see the game better? Question from Kegs. I mean, I feel like
hopefully with some sunglasses on, some noise canceling headphones on.
Will help Arch see the game better, or will help him help Caldwell? I'm assuming it's help Arch see the game better. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing for every now and then for guys to take a step back and just kind of look at it. But honestly, I'm less concerned about how Arch seeing the game and more concerned about if he's got any kind of lingering symptoms, be in the press box in the locker room, probably as far away from the field as possible.
I don't know if you're going to be able to put him as far. He was poking his head out of he wouldn't stay in the injury tent.
Like you have to save him from himself. Like you're going to have to put him somewhere where like you'll trust him to stay locked in a cage, for lack of a better term.
All right. We got a question from Bobby Betronic. I don't know the answer to this. Does Caldwell still have the longest UT run from scrimmage?
Yes, he does. 50 yards against Sam Houston.
Okay.
Wow.
And then it's Wisner 37 against OU, and then Arch 36 against Florida. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Let me look here real quick. Caldwell 50 against Sam Houston, and then the next rush. Wisner 37 against OU, and then Arch 36 against Florida.
I mean, it was against Sam Houston, so
you've got four runs from scrimmage this year. Only one of them is by a running back. Caldwell has one, Arch has one, Ryan Wingo has one.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, like it's not. I don't know if Bobby Petronik or somebody else said it, but like we're not just going to snap our fingers and suddenly like this offensive line is going to get it. Like they're just very limited in some of the things they can do, and how that relates to the game plan with Caldwell, I don't know. But it's like Sark's going to have his best stuff. And I'll tell you what, and granted, the 2021 offensive line is better than this offensive line at this point. But kind of here's what gives me hope. I go back to, this is why, like in the back of my head, like I'm not completely abandoning Sark as a play caller. Because I know like when push comes to shove, when his back's up against the wall, he'll come up with something. You go back to the last game of his first season when they're playing Kansas State. They play K-State on a Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. They got to Tuesday. They didn't have a quarterback who could actually get under center and take a snap. Because Hudson Card had a bad wheel. Casey Thompson had a bad thumb. So at that point, like Sark was prepared. Hey, Roschon Johnson, the Wildcats, probably going to be the offense. Now, Casey Thompson got in a position where he could take snaps, but like Sark basically made chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? And Texas ended up winning the game. So like I feel like when he's really backed into a corner, sometimes that's when Sark is at his best. So I may be an idiot for doing it, but I'm holding out hope that we get the best of Sark on Saturday.
Desperate dog. When a hungry dog's got to eat. I mean, they find ways.
All right, we got a question from John 007. How strong is the Vandy run defense? I mean, it plays into the whole, you can't get this run game going.
Mississippi State's run defense was terrible. Kentucky's run defense was terrible. Texas still couldn't run a football.
Yeah, it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The result's going to remain the same.
Yeah. You're going to have to try to manufacture a run game, basically, with your screen game. And to CJ's point, I don't know how much quarterback run you want to mix. I would almost guarantee you there are going to be no design runs called in this game. If there are, man, it's going to have to be something set up that's at a point in the game where like nobody sees it coming. It's like some kind of naked boot or something like that. Like you want to minimize the risk Matthew Caldwell has, because to CJ's point, that's something I think we all need to remember. Assuming Arch doesn't play, you're one play away from KJ Lacey being your quarterback. And I think KJ Lacey is going to be really good. He's really freaking talented, but an SEC game against the top 10 teams is not a point where I want a true freshman cutting his teeth at that position. I would just rather not. So yeah, it's John, it doesn't really matter how good the Vandy run defense is. They're really sound up front, but Texas just straight up just cannot run the football. So
all right. Make sure to get any more of your questions in, Super Chats. We'll jump to the top of our list. But first, we're going to hear from our friend Andy Ludicky one more time. Stuck in the corporate I cannot speak. In the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general. Call Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. He will take you through a process to identify a business that will fit not only your financial goals, but also your skill set. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your destiny, call Andy or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. If you don't want to get stuck in the corporate rat race. Nobody wants that. We have a question from Joey Austin. WTF is going on with Nito Umezla? The words aren't coming today, so y'all can take care of that. Did he eat Flood's lunch? I don't think that's the case, but I think as y'all have said, we don't think we're going to see him again.
No. Look, I'm still trying to figure out what the true reason why we haven't seen him. Because it's very rare that you see someone lose a starting job the week of the season opener and just never hear from him again. I don't know. And to your point, Amanda, I don't think we'll ever see Nato play another snap at Texas. I'm, at this point, pretty surprised that he still travels with the team. So I think it's unfortunate because, I mean, you wait 3 years to get your spot. You don't win out necessarily, and you're just kind of along for the ride.
Yep. All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I think that's just about all the time we have to wrap this up.
Only other thing, Amanda, that I'll add, somebody, I think it was John that was asking about Vanderbilt's run defense. 18th in the country in yards per game allowed, a little over 100. They've only allowed 3 rushing touchdowns this year. That's the fewest in the SEC. And if you're looking at rushing plays this season, they've allowed 27 plays of 10 or more yards. That's tied for 7th in the SEC. 20-yard gains, they've allowed 8. So, but again, it's not like Texas gets a ton of those during the games anyway. So,
yeah. All right, CJ, are you giving a review of training day tonight, or?
Yeah, I gave it a little bit last night. I gave it let's see it right there. 9-5.
There you go. You did your homework.
So we knocked that out. Watched it in the Jackson airport, actually, from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Didn't sleep on Saturday evening after driving from Starkville to Jackson. 5:30 flight. If you need any travel plans or travel
travel planner?
Yeah, I am the best if you don't care about sleep or getting from point A to point B with time to rest. I am so good at it. But Training Day, really good movie, 9 out of 5. The only thing that you can control in life are your smiles and your cries.
Okay.
Amanda, we can't get out of here without getting to this comment, right?
Which comment?
From one Billy Lucci in the chat.
There's a Billy Lucci comment. I did not even see that. If y'all want to hear this argument, go listen to Moving Goalposts. He's going to make me go off on him again.
So Billy questions if the Texas defense is top 10 in the country elite. For this team to compete the rest of the way, they're going to have to be.
I think they can be. I think they've played top 10 elite when they've been playing to their fullest extent.
If we like just take out rankings for a minute, like they've got, I think they're deep enough at interior defensive line to have guys that have stamina to be able to bow up in the fourth quarter. And as long as you've got Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill, you got 2 guys that in crunch time can take over a football game. And that's two box defenders that can legitimately take over a game. Not a lot of defenses in the country can say that. So I'll go with that.
That is not exactly what you said, Billy. He just likes to change, like the wind. The shift in the wind is how he changes his opinions on Texas football.
I don't want to ruin anything else. Y'all just listen to Moving Goalposts this week. So
yeah, there's a bit of a sassy exchange at the top of that one. I'm sure there's a lot of A&M fans that are very angry in the comments of that I will just not be reading. Just do not engage. Do not engage. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this Longhorn live stream. Tuesday night Longhorn live stream brought to you by Andy Ludicky. Make sure y'all tune in to Coffee and Football tomorrow morning for On Texas Football. I'm Amanda Atwell. That's CJ Vogel and Jeff Howell. Thanks so much for joining us. Hook 'em horns and have a great night, y'all.
Y'all have a happy Tuesday. Thank you, Matthew.